Hello and welcome to this episode of How to Be a Great GM. So you want to play online using one of the very many online role-playing systems that are out there. I'm not going to mention them, but you know who they are. One of the questions that came through on our website, www.greatgamemaster.com, was the question of using these online systems where you can generate dice, you can share maps, you can store character sheets, but where everyone connects in via a remote connection can sometimes feel a little impersonal and certainly doesn't come across as that all-encompassing role-playing experience. Now, there are several reasons for it, and these are the ones that I've personally identified, and these are the ways that I've identified on how to overcome those particular problems to online play so that you can play with a random bunch of strangers from across the planet and have as much fun as if you were sitting around a table with them. So if we look at the problems of online play, if we look at the barriers, the very first barrier that we have is the physicality barrier. You are not physically sitting next to me. I can't look at your feet. I can't look at your hands. I can't look at your shoulders. I can't look at the way that you're sitting. Now, this is body language, and all of the communication experts will say that 70% of all of our human communication is via body language. A player who's sitting like this is not necessarily engaged. A player that's doing that is also not necessarily engaged. In your own gaming room, a player who's doing this and who's looking away, you know is bored if they've been there multiple times. A player who's on a little window at the bottom of your screen who's doing this may be looking at their mother doing a tap dance whilst vacuuming in the background, or maybe looking out the window where they've got some particular interesting sights that they might want to see. You just don't know. So you can't read the body language of your players as to whether they're engaged or not. That makes it difficult. The fact that they're in a small window at the bottom of the screen can also make it difficult until they're talking, and then maybe it pops up or maybe it doesn't. It depends on the system that you're using. So that can be a major barrier to your role-playing experience. You just can't read physically whether players are interested or not. The technology itself becomes a barrier. All you need is one player to be sitting there, and the next minute they carry on talking because they keep having internet issues. That breaks the game terribly because you get my point. It's very irritating. In real life, that shouldn't happen. And if it is, you should take your friend who is pausing all over the place to the nearest doctor. So technology becomes a barrier. Now, the person has a microphone and it's sort of sitting here, and they sometimes go, "Oh, sorry, I forgot my mic was muted. sorry. No, what I meant to say was I hit him very hard." So there are barriers technologically to that kind of thing. Then, of course, you have no control over the environment. I spent a great deal of effort trying to make this environment as game interesting as possible. On the other hand, the person who's logging in from their personal computer at home might very well have all sorts of noises going on in the background, to which every now and again they go, "Yeah, sorry guys, it's a bit noisy." Meanwhile, there's a screaming child, a barking dog, a vacuum cleaner, an aeroplane flying over, more dogs barking, and of course now they're not going to bark on cue even though I want them to, just bark. No, never mind. So you can't control the environment that they're in. You can't control whether it is mood lighting or whether it is bright lighting, whether there are skeletons hanging on the walls. You simply can't control that. So that changes the feeling that you're trying to get across. So how do we now overcome some of those barriers? Those are the top barriers that come to my mind, and I'm sure there are plenty more as well. How do we now overcome those barriers? How do we change it so that it feels more like a true role-playing session? The first piece of advice I have for you is to make it intimate. Keep it small. 2, maybe 3 players maximum. Don't go for more than that. And there's a reason for that. It allows you to personally talk to each of those players on a regular basis, as in there's no more than 2 or 3 seconds, maybe 5, between the time that you went, what are you saying, what are you saying, and what are you saying? What are you doing, what are you doing, what are you doing? You're moving quickly through them. So that helps keep the character and the player engaged, because they know there's not a lot of downtime as you're busy working through everybody else who's in the party, where they can sit and do nothing, or maybe they can take their headphones off and they can chat to whoever else is in the room with them, which they wouldn't normally do if you were in an environment, but which they... Technology, like I said, is so disruptive. So try and keep it intimate. Now, part of that intimacy is trust. You have to trust that the players that are playing your game are there because they're having fun, they want to be part of your game, and that means that you have to remove technology from the equation, as ironic as that might sound. You are using some kind of communications device, and that is your technology usage. Anything else is a distraction. So I would ask your players, and again, having it as an intimate group, it makes it easier. I would ask your players, guys, can we put cell phones onto silent or mute unless you're expecting some kind of unexpected emergency? Can we not use the internet so that whilst you're playing, you're quickly just opening up something else to check? Please, hands off of those mouses. Do not touch. Don't multitask. Don't tab between windows. Don't have a convenient little something written on the back on a page that you've got open in the background. If you need to have something written down, or if you need some kind of reference material, have it as a physical piece of paper in front of you. What this allows you to do is to have downtime that we understand, because when you're going, okay, so I'm going to use this, I've got +5, I understand that. But when you are going, okay, no. Oh, okay, I've got +5, and let me just see. Yeah, I've got +5. We don't have a clue what you're doing. You look very weird as you're busy changing through all the tabs, trying to find whatever's going on. So by telling your players, by trusting your players, you say, no technology is to be used. You're not going to draw on the resources of the internet to help during the game. You are going to simply sit in front of your computer, look into your lens, and use real paper to try and get that feeling. That also means that you as the GM, although you might have all these fancy tools available to you in terms of being able to randomly generate dice which can be rolled across everybody's screen so everybody can see the numbers, and the ability to send little cryptic text notes on the side by just typing on your keyboard, none of that should be used. And I know that there are a lot of programmers out there who might be screaming saying, but we spent decades working out how to get the physics engine to make the dice roll exactly how they normally roll in real life. Yes, my answer to you is to use real dice. You can't see what your players are rolling. They can't see what you're rolling. But as an advocate of someone who says that the dice are there to create tension and to create fun, and yes, to occasionally have some kind of numeric value on the system, trust that your players are rolling the dice and trust their answers. Of course, if you've got a player who goes, wow, I just rolled another natural 20. Another natural 20. Look at that. I've never failed. You've got a problem. The player is not playing the game. But if you've got players who roll the dice and they go, well, I got a 3. Hey, I got a 17. Oh, I got a 5. Hey, I got a 19. If they are rolling and the numbers seem to be legitimately randomized and you can hear that dice rolling, then you have got a winner. The idea is that the only part of the technology should be the lens, nothing else. That's what you should be using to communicate with your players. Let them roll dice in front of them. You roll dice in front of yourself. They're making up numbers, you're making up numbers. That's not the point. The point is about role-playing together with people that you wouldn't necessarily be able to role-play with before, and now you're having a new type of experience. You're using the tech as best you can, but you're not letting it invade your space. So that is important. The other thing to bear in mind, of course, is that whilst you're sitting in your chair comfortably because you've got a great setup, someone else might not be sitting on a very comfortable chair. So my advice to you would be to have regular breaks, more so than if you were sitting in your own environment around the table. I would also suggest most strenuously that you say to your players, guys, try and find a quiet space. Having screaming kids in the background is just not good. At the same time, avoid drinking or eating whilst we're all on microphone. There's nothing worse than we don't like that. I've had experience in my own recording sessions where someone eating chips is the most disruptive thing on planet Earth because the sound is right here in your ears and in their ears. And the same as slurping and drinking. So have shorter stints in between breaks where after a particular battle or a series of battles you go, all right guys, we're going to take 5 minutes, drink what you need to drink, eat what you need to eat, do what you need to do, and now settle back down again and focus. So we all need to be on that same page. We need to all be dedicated to that same idea. And I'll be doing a video for the players on the proper etiquette for online role-playing because people seem to forget, or they seem to think that just because they live with the noise in the background of a screaming child, and yes, I particularly hate screaming children in the background because it means two things. One, there is screaming, and two, there are children. All right, I'm over. I'm fine. I'm okay. All right. So the whole point is it's about trust and it's about intimacy. If you can make it feel as if it's just a few of you sitting almost in the same space, you're talking specifically to that person, you're coming back to that person so they don't have time to get distracted. And if you've all come together with the same idea, you've still got dice rolling, you've still got paper, you've still got pencils, then that will make it feel as close to sitting around a table as possible. Any other is simply going to feel like a computer game that you're playing, and it will have as much emotional attachment as you can have in a computer-based environment. I hope that's answered your question, and if it did, hit that like button. If you want to see more, hit that subscribe button. If you want to make your own suggestions, head on over to www.greatgamemaster.com, where there is a section where you can post up your questions, and of course you can write them below, and we'll pick up on them there as well. So until next time, I wish you and your digital audience the very happiest of playing.